I invite Mr. Anil Sharma to deliver his address.
First of all, I'd like to thank Mrs. Pai and all the various members of the Governing Council, the principal, the students for having invited me to this place. Really, thank you very much for it. Now, generally I don't prepare lectures. I generally speak what comes to my heart. But I sat down yesterday and started looking at or started thinking, what am I going to say here? Because, getting invited as a guest is much easier than getting invited as a chief guest. I wish I was invited as a guest because as a chief guest you are supposed to be very responsible. You are supposed to say right things. You are supposed to make sense in everything that you say. And I thought that that was a very difficult thing for me to do. So in future, if you just invite me as a guest, I'll appreciate more. Now, the focus of my talk today is the student. And I believe that the student of today is the maker of tomorrow. So therefore, we are all in some way or the other. The past is a student who would carry this world forward. So therefore, my focus is going to be the student. Now, if I look at life in general, human life, and if I divide in the life into four sections of being a child, of being a school or a college student, of being an organizational person, and then post-retirement, if I look at all that, I personally feel that all the time we are getting lectured. So one thing which I didn't want to do today was to lecture and to give any message. Because when we are kids, parents tell us what to do. They are giving lectures. When we go to school and college, teachers start giving lectures. They tell us what to do. They tell us what is right, what is wrong. When we go to organizations, bosses give lectures. Then they start telling us, oh, this is right or that's right. And I think when you retire, your kids start giving you lectures. They start telling the parents what to do. So I personally feel that if I was to live my life once again, and if I was to look at all the lectures I was given, I will have a question in my mind, and the question will be that all those people who give you such nice advice, such good lectures, if that is the wisdom which was available in the world, then why is the world in a mess? I'll start wondering, because after all, the advice I have got, the lectures I have got, indicate that the world should have been a very different place, because I would imagine that the advice that comes very sincerely. The advice that comes from people who are considered wise. And so the question obviously comes that with this much advice coming from the time you are born till the time you die, despite all that, the world is in a mess in many ways. So the question which came to my mind yesterday when I was thinking about this, this is not a lecture I want to give actually, but thinking about what would I say. The question which came to my mind was that if with this much advice and the world I see, this disparity between the two, if I was a student or if I am a student, what am I supposed to do? One, I could either follow the advice, or second is, I would like to go beyond the need for any advice. And my focus therefore is to the students, and my focus is the student. My belief is that, and I'm not saying it with any disrespect to teachers or parents or anyone, but my thinking is that every student needs to go beyond the need for advice from anyone. I personally feel that all of us are students for life, and what we need to do is we ourselves need to probe, we need to see, we need to observe what is actually happening around us, rather than asking people, what should I do if such and such thing was to happen? We should directly see what is happening in the world, what is happening around us, what is happening in society, what is happening in the organizational world, what is happening to our children. I would rather look at that rather than wait for advice. There's a movie I saw a couple of years ago called Dharm, in which Pankaj Kapoor was acting, and he was shown as a pandit in city of Banaras, and a very well-read man. He was Chaturvedi. He had read all the four Vedas. And somewhere on the ghats of Banaras, when he is walking with all the arrogance that knowledge brings at times, or learning brings at times, when he is walking up the ghat, there is one fakir who comes in front and comes in the path of this pandit. So the people who are coming with the pandit tell this fakir to get on the side, saying that, look, don't you see what a learned man is coming? And this learned man, which is this pandit, says something, and the fakir says a doha which we have all heard. He says, "Tu dekhe kagaz, tu bole kagaz ki lekhi, main bolu aankhon ki dekhi." So now the point is that advice is mostly what is written on the paper, what is written in the books, But I personally feel when we look around, when we observe, when we actually see what is happening, not kagaz ki lekhi but aankhon ki dekhi, we learn in that. I'm told that a couple of years ago in America, one survey was done on young people who join organizations, and many of the students are going to join organizations. So one survey was done to find out what appeals to the young managers of today. What is it that they like to work for? Expectations was that what will come in the survey will be that most young managers want to work for money, recognition. That is what most had expected. But when they went through it, they realized that the young students of today, the young managers of today, the first thing they want to do is not the thing that they work for is neither money, nor power, nor position, but most of them want to work for making change happen to this world. That is what the survey said. That most young students, most young people today, most young managers want to make change happen. And therefore, one of the things I have to offer here is that I believe, now these are my feelings, this is my thinking, that if the student of today has to make change happen tomorrow, then one of the things I'll say, it's not an advice, it's a offering, or it's a thinking that I have, is that I believe that the world is generally in a mess because of the worldly wise people. I believe the world is in a mess because of the worldly wise people. And what is worldly wisdom? Worldly wisdom is, if there is a problem, don't get into it, because you will also get into a problem. Worldly wisdom is that if you are walking on the road and you see an accident victim, don't pick him up, because you will get embroiled with the police. Worldly wisdom is that do not get into any controversy, make politically correct statements so that you can't be quoted. This is what worldly wisdom is. And I personally, if the focus of my talk is the student, the first thing I will tell the people or the students is discard worldly wisdom. That's the first thing you can do. Because I used to sit at the feet of a great man called J. Krishnamurti, and he used to say, you can't change what you are a part yourself of. So therefore, if you want to change the world, you can't belong to it and then change. So the only thing you need to do as a first step is don't belong to it. Now, how do you not belong to this world? The very first thing you have to discard is ambition. Now, most of institutions, including at times educational institutions, praise ambition. And I personally feel that there's a fine difference between ambition and passion. In the ambition, there is a second. In the ambition, I have to do better than the other. In passion, there's no one else other than myself. So therefore, passion is that whatever you enjoy, just do it for the sake of it. And I'm reminded of, I'm sorry I'm taking slightly long, but I thought I would say these things. I'm reminded of a movie I saw many years ago where they showed one athlete who used to run very fast, He could win every single competition that he ever ran for. And once he went on a vacation to a beach hotel. So he was staying in the beach hotel and he looked out in the early morning and he saw one villager running on the beach. So this athlete who used to always stand first noticed that this athlete is running, this villager is running very, very fast. So he comes down, he tells this villager, he says, "Can I run with you also?" So villager said yes. They both ran and the villager beat him. Second day he again came and told the villager, "Can I again run with you?" The villager said, "Yes, please." Again he ran and lost. Third, fourth day. On the fifth day, this villager asked him, he says, "Sir, can I ask you a question?" He says, "Tell me." He says, "Every day you have been coming down and running with me. Every subsequent day I have seen you sadder than the day before. So what is bothering you?" This man tells him, he says, "Look, what is bothering me is the fact that I am a national athlete and here I can't outrun you. You are running faster than me." So this villager looks at him. He says, "Oh sir, so you used to run because you wanted to run faster than me?" He says, "Yeah, but why you run?" He says, "I run because I love running." And that's the difference between ambition and passion. That ambition, to my mind, is the first thing you need to discard if you want to bring change happen, because in the ambition you'll burn yourself, you'll burn the organizations you work for at times. The second thing is competitiveness versus camaraderie. That's the second thing you have to choose between. I remember that the headquarters where I work of ITC hotels, it used to be in a place called the Qutub Institutional Area. And our headquarters, I used to sit on the first floor in my office. And next to our office was a school for disabled children. So one day I just looked out of the window of my office and I saw there were some sports activities happening in that school. So I just started looking down. I looked there and I saw that there were 5 people standing in one row. There was a race to happen and these were all mentally disabled children, or mentally or differently abled, whatever word we may use. So when the shot was fired, they started running towards the finish line. And what I saw was that the person, the child who was coming first, the moment he crossed the midpoint, he looked back and he saw the other kids were coming far behind. He ran back to them. He held their hand and ran with them, holding their hand. And I started wondering whether we are mentally challenged or they are mentally challenged. And I think that is what taught me that camaraderie, you have to decide, you have to, as students, as learners, you have to decide as to what you want to work on, competition or, other thing which I was telling or I was sharing with I think the second year or third year students in the morning was, one of the things that you need to, or we all need to look at is that the moment any one of us believes that he has come to a stage where he can teach others, his life is over. Because if we are students in life, then we can never come to a stage where we can tell others what to do. I personally again heard Krishnamurti saying something which said, he said that fools listen to advice and bigger fools give it. Now that he may have said jokingly, but my point is very simple, that don't necessarily listen to any lectures, any advice. You have to decide what you want to do. You have to, as students, look at failure, and I personally feel that every learning stops when you start fearing failure. I personally feel that as students of life, we must embrace failures, because that is what teaches us far more than so-called success. Another thing I will offer to students is, don't follow, if you want to follow, then follow your gut, follow your dreams, follow your conviction, and act right, And there I would just make one small statement, because many times I wonder, or many times people wonder as to what is acting right mean. Now there is no definition of what is right action, because in some ways the Bhagavad Gita talks about actually right action. And somewhere in one of the translations I once read, when Arjun asks Krishna as to what is life all about, Krishna says life is nothing but choice making and is about action. So Arjun says, okay, how do I know that my action is right? And that's what a student of life asks. How do I know my actions are right actions if I have to live this life? So Krishna tells Arjun, he says, by itself no action is right or wrong. When a lion kills a deer, there is nothing wrong in that. He, out of hunger and being a non-vegetarian, is attacking the deer. So there is no right or wrong. While it is wrong for the deer, it's the right action on the part of the lion who is praying. Similarly, when I breathe to survive, there are many germs which are going inside my body and are dying. So therefore, while my living on my behalf is a right action, but for the germ it is a wrong action. So when Krishna says that to Arjun, then Arjuna asks, okay, if by itself no action is right or wrong, then what is the definition of right action? So Krishna tells him that there are only two things which you have to measure always in mind to know if your action is the right action. One, any action in which your intent is right, and any action which is for the good of majority is the right action. And I personally therefore feel that students must follow, not only students, all of us must follow our dreams, our conviction, and act right. And the definition of acting right is only right intent, and majority is good if that is in your mind. Also, we as students, we must always remember there is nothing called a personal success. Every success in any way that comes to us is in a context and is brought to us by people. At times people we forget. At times that success comes because of our people who we unfortunately call subordinates. At times success comes from something we have learned somewhere, maybe on the roadside from even a beggar. Success comes because of that. So always remember that there is nothing called personal success. It is always because of a context and because of people around you. The other thing which students and all of us must remember is that, a human being should not die as a second-hand person. And therefore, my proposition to students will be that if you want to change this world, change organization that you are going to work with or work for, do not follow, do not be second hand, do not ape someone. Do what you think is the right thing. Dare to dream, dare to express, and dare to act. However, try to be as considerate as you can be. So that is all I think I have to share, and I also want to thank Neil, who's from this institute, who's an alumni. I want to thank him for accepting a small offer on behalf of ITC and being here with us. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you.